She's a Barbie girl in a Barbie world, attacked by plastic. It's fantastic. This is Rose, written by Russell T. Davies. Hello and welcome to the 54th episode of an Unearthly podcast, where we discuss Time and the Rani due to our time distortion or something.
Randy, that's your line.
Sorry, my mic was dead. Let's try this again.
It's already botched, but okay.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to the 54th episode of an Unearthly podcast, where we discuss Time and the Rani due to our time distortion.
No, Bill, we've broken the time loop. Erin sacrificed her energy to get us out of it. We're cool.
Oh, good. This is the 55th presentation of an Unearthly podcast, featuring Russell T. Davies' Rose. I am the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt.
Hello.
And Ronson.
All right.
Kicking off.
Well, hopefully we won't have any more technical issues tonight.
Hopefully.
Kicking off with Series 8 news, as you do. Moffat says the new Doctor is done flirting. Start off with the upside of this approach. What do you guys think?
No more naked Doctor to squint you out?
Yeah, hopefully. I have a feeling he won't be as eager to get naked Capaldi on screen.
And I'm kind of hoping it is a step back towards classic Who. I mean, basically, Russell T. Davies took Doctor Who and made it sexy, and then Moffat ran with that ball for a couple of years, and...
Moffat ran with that ball in the wrong direction, though.
What was that, Matt?
Moffat ran with that ball, but in the wrong direction, though.
Well, it wasn't just that. It's like, okay, we've had enough of this ball.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Randy said. Because I think that they've gone a lot of directions with that ball. They've done the relationship. They've done Captain Jack. They've done the marriage. The general flirting with everybody. More marriages. So it is worth giving it a bit of a break.
Yeah, let's go back to what made Doctor Who great in the first place.
Yeah. On the negative side, go ahead.
Yeah, well, actually, go ahead, Bill, because this was kind of a segue into the negative side.
Oh, okay. On the negative side, I'd have loved to see a charming older Doctor hitting it off with the ladies and sort of an echo of the first Doctor and Barbara, or was it Kamika? I forget how you pronounce that. And it's a bit of a shame that Moffat has decided, either by design or coincidence, that sexual energy and men over 50 do not mix.
And on the other end of that, too, without having the whole sexiness in there, what does Moffat have left to write?
That's true.
That's what he was brought into Doctor Who to write in the first place, and what
all of his characters are based around.
Oh, Speaking of which, I'm not sure if you guys had heard this. This is kind of related, is the only reason I'm bringing it up. Apparently, in February, there was some news that hinted at the idea that the clockwork androids from Girl in the Fireplace were returning. I just saw that today. That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah, I saw a little bit about that it's possible.
I imagine that they'll gain powers, like if you look at them for too long, they'll grow extra parts or something.
Yeah, they're a Moffat creation, so he feels carte blanche to be able to mess with them as he sees fit, even though it does not mesh with what was previously designed for them. So I'm kind of 6 of one, half dozen the other on this. Why are they doing this? Before, they were a ship looking for a brain, and they thought the brain was Madame de Pompadour, so why would they be doing anything now? They were good as a one-off villain. I really don't see them with recurring status.
I can see them with recurring status if they change it up. But they have to be very careful about changing it up.
Well,
very careful, because I wouldn't be surprised if that's not the first ship with those kind of robots on it either.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if it's another ship in the same fleet, because if I remember looking at the episode that they're supposed to appear in, I believe...
Victorian era.
No, I didn't think it was Victorian era. I thought it was Sherwood Forest, Robin Hood era.
From what I heard, it was supposed to be in the series opener, and that it would be a Victorian episode. So I think that would be the one with.
Yeah, that was not what I heard, because the Victorian episode's dealing with Jack the Ripper.
Okay, well, like I said, the article I saw on it was from February. So if there's been newer news, then that probably would not be accurate anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that the opening episodes are going to be Jack the Ripper. It's going to be basically the main gang that we've had for the past season.
And I know the third episode is pretty much confirmed Robin Hood.
Yeah, and then I thought the Clockwork things were supposed to wind up being somewhere in Sherwood.
Anywho.
Unless it turns out that Jack the Ripper's a Clockwork android, that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, that would be an interesting twist.
That might be interesting. We'll have to see.
In other news, we do have a few new cast announcements. They seem to be wanting to tell us about a co-star from every episode lately.
Pretty much.
And a lot of them are major comedians.
Yeah, the thing is, not knowing that much about mainstream British comedy, I don't know any of these names that they keep announcing. So that's part of why I keep mentioning so many of them, just because I have no idea what ones are significant and what ones aren't.
Well, set me up the links again and I can take a look at them.
Okay.
I know a bit about British comedy. I'm not the expert.
Well, the first one up is Hermione Norris.
Is that the first one?
Yeah, this
first
is the
one
news
that he
from
put up,
12.
Yeah.
Hermione Norris. Spooks, Kingdom, Wire in the Blood, Crimson Field. She's not a comic actor. She sounds like she's drama.
Yeah, she doesn't sound like a comedian. She's obviously a drama actor by the sounds of these things.
Yep. I don't know any of these series personally.
From the Moffat quote in the article, I'm not entirely sure how to read this. Whether it is saying that the production is taking place in an area where another script was produced, another episode was produced, or if the episode is taking place in a location that another episode has taken place, or both.
It's basically what they're talking about is that they're going back to where they filmed Planet of Fire and using that as the filming for whatever episode they're doing now. It's the location, not the actual
set.
No, well, it's the same location that they filmed Planet of Fire.
Same location that they filmed, but it's not meant
planet.
to be. Yeah, it's not meant to be the actual same place.
When it says the Doctor's returning to the scene of an old adventure, but there have been sinister changes since his last visit, implies that in-universe, it's the same location.
In which case, they're just being silly and really not being clear at all about anything they're talking about.
Yeah.
Because they apparently... Yeah, Lanzarote, yeah, we'll have to see for certain if they're basically going back there because they're using the same location because it's the same planet. The bits I'm reading said they were just returning to the same place that they'd filmed this before, but if the plot is that they're returning to the Planet of Fire, that'd be kind of new. I'd have to rewatch that episode because I haven't seen it in years.
Which episode was that?
It's the one right before Caves of Androzani.
Oh, okay. Weird.
So that'd be Perry's introduction.
That'd be Perry's introduction. It was Turlough's goodbye.
And also one of the last couple times we saw the Master before the
5th
Doctor.
This might answer that. They mentioned that Tony Asoba, who previously appeared in Classic Who, will be in the same episode. So if this is somebody from that episode, we'll know for certain that it's the same place and universe. I'm looking up the name now.
Yeah, but he was in two completely unrelated episodes. He was in Destiny of the Daleks with Tom Baker and Dragonfire with Sylvester McCoy.
Okay, so one way or another, this is probably not related to anything.
No, it's just that he's been known as a actor to make multiple Doctor Who appearances.
Right. What did he play in Dragonfire?
Krakauer. I'm probably mispronouncing that.
Don't know. I haven't seen that episode yet.
With the name.
Again, I really need to get back to watching Sylvester McCoy one of these days. I really do.
Yes, you really do.
Even though I'll be starting with the worst season, but at least I'll be starting with the worst season. I'll go on to better things right afterwards.
Yeah, it goes from a mediocre season to a good season to a great season. So.
Okay, so we've seen about all we can of that. That's a we will predict on that.
I'm an idiot. If I had read the rest of the paragraph, I would have seen what you were telling me.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, that's what I read before I talk, Bill.
Ouch.
Stab him in the eyes, why don't you?
I also watch the episode before I podcast.
Smack.
Or if I don't, I deliberately say that, and it's only because I've seen the episode 50 bazillion times.
Yeah, pretty much. I've seen multiple times. Like Rose.
Oh, I actually watched this one.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen this one.
I've seen this one a dozen times, too. I actually watched this one priorhand because I had an hour to kill.
I watched Rose like 4 times anyway. I probably didn't even... The only reason I really needed to watch it was so I could write down a synopsis in some sort of linear progression of cause to effect.
Are we ready to move on to the next one?
Yep, the next one is Frank Skinner.
Yep, and he is a comedian.
He cameoed in the Five-ish Doctors reboot, but I could not tell you.
Yeah, I think it was just a quick throw-on role, like somebody they bumped into or something. And he's apparently a giant Doctor Who geek.
Apparently, yeah.
He subscribes to Doctor Who magazine, something I can't even claim to. He's got a TARDIS ringtone, been there. 5-foot cardboard Dalek in his bedroom. Okay, yeah, that's above and beyond here.
He enjoys the Sensorites, so he's good in my book. Well, except for that one scene.
It's no secret that Frank's been pitching vigorously to get into Doctor Who for a while. He's been volunteering to be third monster on the left as long as I've been in this job. But now, in Jamie Matheson's sparkling script, we've finally gotten a part that can showcase all of Frank's famous wit and charm. Hopefully he'll get out of my garden now.
And
that was from Stephen Moffat.
And apparently a theme this season is to cast more classic Who actors, because there apparently a Curse of Fenric actor will be appearing in the same episode with Skinner, as well as a King's Demons actor.
Yeah, I think that's part of their bringing Doctor Who back to classic. But if that is why they're doing it, then they're going about it the wrong way.
Yeah, I'm like,
because the way to bring Doctor Who back to the classic starts with the scripts.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like Moffat's heard a lot of the criticisms about New Who being too different from classic, and is just trying to do whatever he can to bring up those wayward fans back into the mix. But that's a nice nod if everything else is done right in the first place.
Yes.
But you have to write it the right way for those nods to be worth anything. Otherwise, they're a waste of effort.
Yeah, we won't know if he's actually writing it right until we actually see the episodes in a couple months.
Yep. One of the things that made Doctor Who great back in the 70s, I will say 70s, because the 80s it did have a bit of a fall down, is the fact that it had several excellent, excellent scripts. It had some in the 80s too, but not with the consistency it had in the 70s and even the 60s.
Right. Although, well, I think by '89 it reached that consistency, but by then it was on its way out.
Yeah, by then it was too late, and that point the rest of the show was lagging behind. Not the acting, but the special effects and the
Yeah.
the '70s though was the moment of magic where you had the really good scripts, and for the time
the later '70s, I think.
I would the final season uh, of Pertwee wasn't that good, but the ones before it were pretty darn good. And most of Tom Baker's was great or better. I would say up until Romana 2, I think the second season with Romana 2 started to fall apart a little. And that was the part that was about the time JNT first took over. So there was a lot of shakeups with the writing staff, etc. Mind you, there is the odd crawler in there, but I'm saying that the overall level of quality was a lot higher.
Which, speaking of that time period, that reminds me of something I'll be mentioning later on when we get to discussing the scene that Rose entered in on.
Anywho.
Okay.
Did either of you recognize the other names mentioned in the Skinner article, just if they're worth...
Not off the top of my head, no.
You mean like David Bamber and Daisy Beaumont?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that Rome was huge, but I don't know what he played in Rome.
Yeah. The Armstrong and Miller Show sounds like a comedy, and that's what Daisy Beaumont was in.
It's time for the Armstrong and Miller Show. Okay. All right, what's our next piece of news?
Next piece of news is a humble bundle of IDW Doctor Who comics. So... essentially, the deal here is to pick your own price. If you're above the average, you get extra stuff. Oh, actually, no, they're actually saying 15 or more as to get the more, which is interesting because before I could have sworn just that if you pay above what the average person pays. So either I was reading
or you're reading something wrong. But yeah, you need to at least yeah, I'm not sure why they said it's only $15 on the actual article, because you have to actually go there and see what the actual price is. Because it will flux as people keep buying it at higher prices to make that average.
So maybe the average at that time of the article was $15.
Was around $15, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds to me like I don't like this particular trend and stuff. Because you're always going to have somebody skew the average. Somebody with a lot of money and no time will throw a shitload of money at it, and that will raise the average price. Thus, also, you think you're bidding a good price on it, and then somebody comes in and the average price keeps going up to the point that you're no longer in the awesome, so you have to keep paying more.
No.
Although, whereas on the other hand, you'll also get people... You should also get a lot of people who normally wouldn't be able to afford any of these comics, who throw down a token amount so that they're, so that they're getting something, and will get the minimum one, and also lower the average.
And also, let me explain, as someone who actually has bought a indie bundle for the PC games that they sell, that if you are at or above the average at that time of purchase, you still get all the extra unlocks later, even if the price goes up.
Okay.
So the idea is to catch it early, and then the people who come at it late might toss more money at it.
I don't know. I just prefer to have set rates for my stuff.
By the way,
I got like 10 video games for like $5 to $8, so I can't really complain.
Well, I kind of see this. I mean, I doubt this is this is a for-profit thing. So oh no, actually it's not. I'm saying it's mentioned as a support charity. So it's basically when you walk up to a table and they say, "Here, take this free. This is the suggested donation," and then they're like, "Oh, you donated X amount. Here's something else free to go with it."
I don't know. I just remember back when we would pledge to our public television station on the breaks, and it was like, if you pledge at this level, you get this.
Mm-hmm.
But if you pledge at this level, you get this, this, and this.
That's Kickstarter.
Yeah, except for Kickstarter gives you finite amount of slots that you can pledge like that.
Yeah.
No, this was just if you pledge at the $30 level, you get you get the Doctor Who mug with the disappearing TARDIS.
That's the choice of the person who sets up the Kickstarter, because they can say unlimited amount of this prize.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, the smallest prize, usually an unlimited number of people can bid for.
But no, I always liked the fact that you knew how much you were paying and you knew what you were getting. It just made sense to me. I don't know. The random bell curve stuff starts bothering me. Of course, I could just be an old fart.
I'm thinking you're just an old fart.
Get off my lawn, Matt. Get off my lawn.
I've done it for like 10 video games with soundtracks, I might add.
Off my lawn.
For, again, only $5 to $8.
Damn kids.
Either way, you're paying less than retail price, which makes it good in my book.
Yes.
These are all digital copies, by the way, so don't expect free comic books in the mail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually it would be, because it is an online thing to buy them in the first place.
Which is why they can do it for whatever price you feel like. If you bid $1, you can still get books.
Yeah, you can at least have a couple books.
And it is DRM free.
Yes, they are.
Right. This is available until May 28th.
Next.
And next we have a 2-pack from of Fathom Events, which I believe the date might have been today and yes, it is. Yes. So, I'm
today
sorry,
and tomorrow.
I'm off by a month. It's June 16th.
June, yeah.
So I'm not entirely certain what Wings is, but it has an image of geese, so it's not Doctor Who regardless.
Nature documentary.
As far as we're concerned, it's there's Rise of the Cybermen, Age of Steel, which I can kind of understand why they chose it. On one hand, it's an odd choice. On the other hand, it's Cybermen and can be treated as a one-off, so that those two things make sense about it. Plus, it being a two-parter makes it long enough.
Yeah, the fact that it's a two-parter and it's one of the bigger early stories from the new run.
Like, it's not the best Cyberman story, but it's a two-part Cyberman story, and unlike the two-part Dalek stories, you don't need to watch a bunch of episodes to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, that's one of the few ones that had some international success. I remember watching part of Rise of the Cybermen in Japanese.
They sounded like the 80s Cybermen. That was awesome.
And I looked at the list of who was acting what in the Japanese version, and it broke my hamster a little. Apparently, their voice for David Tennant's Doctor was the same voice actor that did Moose from Ranma 1/2.
I remember us talking about that.
It hurts. But he did a fairly good job. But him like, Cyberman! I'm like, dude, this is not Dragon Ball Z.
Yes! For those who have no idea what he's talking about, the Cybermen were essentially Dragon Ball Z's nod to the Cybermen.
They only not, because they were just these little plant creatures.
Yeah, but that's where their name was from, and they were essentially they were the minions of the villain of the story arc. And apparently, the first time that I watched Dragon Ball Z, that part of the Saiyan saga got skipped by the network I was watching them on, which is kind of weird. So so when I first saw them as a trading card, I was really confused. Like, what the hell are these? But that's enough of that tangent.
Yeah, that's a bit of a standard. That was a one-liner you expanded on.
So June 16th and June 17th, if your local cinema is supporting it, It is at 7:30 p.m. and you can watch David Tennant along with the Series 2 companions.
Billy Piper and Noel Clark. Yeah. Not that you haven't seen Noel Clark on the big screen if you watched Star Trek Into Darkness, but still.
He'll have a slightly bigger part in this one.
Yes. You know, I was kind of wondering if they were going to take the time to run a 3D post effect on it. Can you imagine like the Cybermen breaking through the window into the building?
Nice.
Yeah.
And actually, with some of the green screen scenes that Clark is in, that would also be good scenes for that too. Where
That'd be kind of interesting.
Where it's Noel Clark with himself.
Yep.
Although then you might have to his mug shoved up in your face in 3D, and some people might not appreciate that.
Depends on how they do the 3D. There's good 3D and there's bad 3D. For me, good 3D is as much as people rag on the movie was James Cameron's Avatar. It was the 3D went inwards and showed depth instead of bad 3D, which is pointy things coming at your face.
Oh, but that's what you want from a slasher 3D movie.
Day of the Doctor, from what I saw, was mostly things popping at your face.
Ha! Yeah, which kind of annoyed me because I really was kind of hoping they would do more with the 3D paintings and give them a sense of depth.
I mean, they did a little bit of it, but not as much as they could have.
Yeah, it would have been nice for them to, considering the fact that they pointed out the paintings were in 3D and did so much with it.
Yeah.
It would have been really nice to have those in full, glorious 3D, so you look at the picture and you can feel the picture bending inwards. Would have been kind of awesome.
But between Matt's comment and this discussion, I'm now picturing like hitting a Dalek with something and having an eyeball pop out.
Well, one of my main bitches on pointy things at your face, I think, was the 3D cut of Beowulf, which came out about the same time as James Cameron's Avatar, and I believe I had also
earlier.
issues. No, it was about the same time because I remember comparing the two, and we saw them like months apart from each other. But also the Disney Alice in Wonderland, I think I did not like the 3D because it was the same thing.
Yeah, that one I couldn't really grasp a decent reason to have 3D on.
Generally, I only watch things in 3D if they're not available in 2D anyway.
It depends. Well, mind you, back then, this was when my mother would drag me to stuff, and
yeah,
I think she liked to watch stuff in 3D.
And granted, there are things I would make exceptions for, like if Pacific Rim hadn't waited a month later to come out in IMAX in my theater, I would watch
see, that was your theater's problem.
IMAX. Yeah, that wasn't the distributor by any chance. That was the fact that what movie was before Pacific Rim? Was it Man of Steel?
Possibly, which didn't need 3D.
They only have I think one IMAX theater in my movie theater, so they kept that movie there for a month. If it was Man of Steel or something else or whatever, that was in there for a month, and then when they let it out, they finally let Pacific Rim in.
Yeah.
By then, I had already seen Pacific Rim, and I didn't have $30 to spend.
Yeah, it came out the same week here that it was in the regular theaters, and
I just realized Godzilla might be available in IMAX. If it is, that's definitely what I'm spending my night tomorrow doing.
Which reminds me, I need to get my friend going so we can
anyway.
But
yeah, we saw that in 3D, and it's just, I would love to see if they did the Rise of the Cybermen Age of Steel in 3D.
Yeah, that would be a good episode for 3D. The marching through the walls and everything.
Yeah, all the hand gestures and stuff would be nice to see in 3D. Anything else for news?
That was 5, right? Yeah, so that was all of our news.
Okay, so that's the news.
Now we go on to setting the scene for our Ninth Doctor's premiere.
All right. Well, it actually goes as far back as 2003. At that point, Doctor Who had been off the air for 14 years, and not a lot of people hoped it would ever make a comeback. I remember actually making discussions at my anime club about hoping for a Doctor Who comeback, and they were just like, not going to happen. But other productions, of course, Big Finish had been making audio successfully for a few years, many of which had come over to the BBC's website. Well, not many, but a few, as animated episodes and had gotten good appreciation points. Enough so that BBC Interactive had done Scream of the Shalka, which was going to be a launch of a new Ninth Doctor series, starring Richard E. Grant as the Doctor. However, at the same time, BBC One's controller, Julie Gardner, decided that the time was right to bring back Doctor Who to the main screen, and tapped Russell T Davies on the shoulder and said, "Okay, let's do this." Russ, basically had a geekgasm, and they made the announcement, I think, like less than a month after the Scream of the Shalka premiere, which, of course, canceled the rest of the continuing interactive episodes of those. And the second they made that announcement, the internet exploded. Because, of course, at that point there was no other announcement other than Doctor Who would be coming back. There was no announcement of when, there was no announcement of how, and there was no announcement of who. So speculation immediately ran rampant among the fan bases. Who would play the Doctor? What would it be like after 14 years? Everything else. I think it was another 12 months before we even heard that they had cast the Doctor, and I think another 3 or 4 before we heard it was Christopher Eccleston. And then, of course, immediate speculation on how he would be, how he would act. The standard stuff, only with an air of anticipation, as most of these people didn't have a standing Doctor to base it on. Paul McGann, of course, being the standing Doctor, and, of course, the speculation on if he would come back for a regeneration scene in the first episode. A lot of fans at that point had been holding out that Paul McGann would actually be resuming his role as the 8th Doctor for the new series. That didn't happen. And, of course, then they started filming. And Russell T Davies and them did their best to try to hold down leaks. For a good part of their writing, pre-filming, there was the assumption that the Daleks would not be in the episode because the estate of Terry Nation refused to allow the Daleks to be used in Doctor Who. They were still a little bitter after Warner Brothers had used a Dalek in Space Jam without permission.
Actually, not Space Jam, but it was a sequel to it.
Was it Back in Action?
Yeah, Back in Action.
Yes, that's the one.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I know my Doctor Who, but I get my Warner Brothers, my Looney Tunes confused sometimes.
Space Jam
Anyway.
is the one with Michael Jordan.
Okay, but yeah, so after Looney Tunes Back in Action, they were a little bitter about it, and it took a lot of negotiation for them to get that permission, and it came through at the last second, which made Russell T Davies very happy. Imagine what the new series of Doctor Who would be without Daleks.
Ugh.
Just imagine.
Evolution of the type of things.
Okay, that's enough imagining. Anyway, so there was a lot of hullabaloo, so much so that the fact that the master copy of what was filmed for the first episode was transferred from the on location in Wales to BBC Central under a pseudonym, Torchwood. All the reels were named Torchwood. That did not, however, stop, as one of the early pre-production copies, with most of the special effects in there, but most of the music not, did get leaked to the internet about 2 weeks prior to broadcast. And then finally, the leaked copy was using the classic Tom Baker opening for its opening credits. It was the new credits, mind you, the new special effects, but the old music. Kind of interesting on which came first there, huh? Anyway, um, finally the 2 weeks rolled around, and Rose finally appeared on television, although there was a brief audio goof within the first 10 minutes of the film on the original copies. So a lot of people didn't get to hear the unedited version until the DVD releases. And so, with the summary, I hand you over to Bill. Take it away, Bill.
Rose, a London girl, is going about her regular workday until she is attacked by a small army of Auton mannequins. She's saved by a man who tells her to run, that they are made of plastic, and that he is, in fact, the new doctor. Well, he says he is the doctor. He proceeds to blow up her work building, see his face in the mirror for apparently the first time, and then she goes on about her life. I mean,
I have theories about the mirror stuff I'll bring out later, Bill.
Rose and the doctor meet again when an Auton arm sets a trap for him in Rose's apartment. When they part ways this time, Rose goes to visit a man who claims to know more about the doctor. While this man, Clive, is providing exposition, Rose's boyfriend Mickey is captured and duplicated by the Autons. The doctor quickly catches up with them again, and after a short fight, tries to use the Auton head to find the Nestine consciousness controlling it. The head melts, so the doctor tries to find the Nestine by looking for a large circular transmitter. Rose points out the London Eye, prompting the first use of the Ninth Doctor's signature, Fantastic, and they rush off to the Nestine. The Doctor tries to reason with it, which doesn't work very well, and he ends up captured. The Autons begin to invade, killing Clive. Rose frees the Doctor, knocking a vial of antiplastic into the Nestine, killing him. After a brief hesitation, Rose leaves Mickey behind to accept the Doctor's offer to travel with him in the TARDIS.
Wow, that was short and
that
succinct.
Was really short, actually, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it helps that it's only a 45-minute episode compared to, like,
True, yeah.
2 hours.
That does...
Still, even factoring in half the length, that was pretty damn short.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I had a few things that I actually wanted to comment on. But first,
this is more about set pieces and moments than actually a lot of things happening.
Yeah.
Poor Clive. Poor Clive. He just realizes that he's not a crazy nutter, and he dies.
Well, yeah. So the thing is, like, you see him looking at the Autons, and they open up the gun, and it's like, you know, he's not afraid or anything. You know, I don't know if he's just accepting it, or he's like, I knew this was going to happen when I found out the Doctor was here, or what. But he's just like looks at it and gets shot.
I think the thought was, oh, I'll never get to vlog about this.
Yeah. Or maybe he's just thinking about the next blog post. If I survive, the subject
bollocks. Boosh.
Kind of the thought there, yeah. But no, I actually did have some comments about the whole him looking at his face in the mirror for the first time. I realized something. For years, we've gone on the assumption that he was a freshly regenerated Doctor. He can't be. And that is, if you look at all the evidence Clive has of him places without Rose.
Which is true, to a degree.
Yes, but he also, I mean, this is something we discussed in Robot. He takes off in the TARDIS for about 5 seconds before Rose actually starts traveling with him. Personally, I think he takes off in the TARDIS for a couple hundred years before coming back and then taking Rose to travel with him.
I don't think it's a couple hundred years, but I think there might be a mix of the two. But I also think that this is the first time he's looked in the mirror, not because it's a new face, but because before he couldn't stand to look at his own face in the mirror.
because he assumed that he just killed all of his people and he had no interest in looking.
He was too ashamed to look in the mirror.
I've also heard the theory that he was either just too busy or didn't go anywhere that there were mirrors, which it could be a mixture.
That's pretty darn ludicrous.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in, freaking 1967 or 1963 Dallas. He was in,
if you're assuming that all of those are before this episode in his personal timeline, yeah.
And this makes sense to me for another perspective too. If you assume that he had just come fresh from the end of the 50th anniversary special from Day of the Doctor, where he had just regenerated, his emotional responses would be way different than what they are in this episode.
Yeah, he needs some time to mellow out first.
Yeah,
it's not really mellow out. It's to be able to fix in place that forced cheerfulness he has through the first part of this episode.
Mm-hmm. But it's obviously forced because you can tell how just the idea of dealing with humans is pissing him off.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, there's bitterness in his forced cheerfulness, but he's not having a mental breakdown. If you just pushed a button and killed your entire people, I'm pretty sure you would be a complete and total mental wreck.
Right. And that's the main reason why I really want the Ninth Doctor to get a big Finish adventure set with him before, whether it's before the start of this episode or during that time in between him disappearing and coming back and saying, and by the way, it travels in time too. One way or another, I want to see this Doctor before Rose coping with the aftermath of the Time War and the moment.
Yeah, I suspect that's the first time he looked in the mirror and could stand looking at himself in the mirror.
I think the day that Nick Briggs first off, he would need to get the BBC would have to sign the papers. But if Nick Briggs comes to Eccleston with a real script about that, I think that'll be the thing to bring him back to Doctor Who.
Yeah. Something
because
that he can sink his teeth into. He's always
said if there was something he could really do with the character, something really new that would actually expand the character and be really worth him dedicating time to it, that's when he would come back.
I'm pretty sure that there was a long period of time that the Doctor pretty much just laid in the fetal position in the TARDIS.
Well, yeah, that's to be expected, especially after a regeneration.
Well, not just because of the regen shock, just because of the sheer trauma. Of course, having his mind erased that he didn't actually kill them and saved them, and then suddenly it's like, I did it. I killed them all. I'm pretty sure,
I don't know if it's because I've been watching too much Matt Smith lately. I just imagine him just going somewhere and screaming and just throwing things around, meaningless things onto the floor, and just until he finally breaks down and just starts sobbing.
Probably whatever he uses for a bedroom, he'll just start wrecking the place.
We've never actually seen the Doctor's bedroom, and that's assuming that the Doctor sleeps.
We've never seen him sleep, although he's indicated that he sleeps, but a lot less than a human does. So for all we know, he just leans against the console and closes his eyes for a few minutes.
Is that why there's foam padding on that bench?
We know that Time Lords do not need to sleep all in one chunk. So they can actually get all their sleep by a series of cat naps.
We know that elves do not sleep, they only meditate for a short period of time. Oh, sorry. Wrong fan.
No, I'm serious. We learned that in Invasion of Time.
I was making a parallel, but
it fell short, Bill. It fell kind of short.
Okay. Well, if he had spells that he needed to recuperate while he was meditating, it would have worked a lot better.
Yes, but elves can't recoup spells through meditation. They need 8 hours.
They still need the full 8 hours to get it back on track. Not to mention, I'm not entirely sure that the Doctor is actually a wizard. I would actually think more of something along the lines of a ranger.
Know this.
Yeah.
He's Merlin. We know this.
Well,
Deal with it, Matt.
he's got a little bit of mage, but sure. I would also argue there's a bit of a couple other classes in there too.
I was gonna say Scion Bard.
The Doctor's been around for a long time. He has levels in everything.
I was gonna say I feel like we've had this conversation at great length in the past.
He has at least one level of monk.
At least a level or two of fighter as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a good sword arm.
I don't know if he'd have cleric, but then again, with 10th Christ complex.
Yeah. And 11 could use Cure Light Wounds, although that could have been a paladin.
Anyway, but yeah, I feel there has to be some time there for that to happen, and it's just that he has not looked at himself in the mirror until then and actually looked.
Right.
You know?
The Doctor saves, and he takes half damage.
Anything before that would have been a furtive glance, and then a deliberate look away because he couldn't face himself.
Kind of a Sixth Doctor thing.
Also, the feeling that when you get into the beginning of this episode, you almost feel like you're walking into the middle of the episode.
Oh, from the Doctor's point of view.
Yeah, from the Doctor's point of view, he's already known that the Nestine's there. He's working on a counteragent. He's, he's already in the building dealing with it, and then he has to stop and save some slip of a girl from getting killed.
Because she's the wrong place at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm. I almost see him in there building the bomb out of spare parts in the tech guy's room, hears her knocking and decides to try to ignore it. And then hears, stuff happen, and he's just like, story of my life. And has to go save her. But, there's whole sections. We missed the fact that the Doctor knows that the electrician's dead because he must have stumbled across the body. Him tracing down the signal to Hendrix.
Mm-hmm.
And discovering the Nestines there in the first place. So there was a bit of this adventure that went on beforehand. Not to mention...
Knowing why the Nestine were there in the first place, meaning he's either conversed with either someone who could speak on behalf of the Nestine or encountered them on another world, indicating that they were coming here.
Or something to that effect.
Speaking of that, granted, this is cutting off a bit, but since we're talking about the Nestine, compared to Spearhead, what did you guys think of the Nestine consciousness?
The Nestine itself, not the Autons?
Right. The physical creature.
I actually like this version better.
To a degree, yeah.
Because it does not look like a freaking, lobster.
It doesn't look like a silly square box of a thing with plastic bags acting like air bubbles and a silly tentacle reaching out of it.
If I look at them together, and if I were to picture, brain cells falling from space as meteors and then coming back together, I do think that the one in Rose more resembles what the end result would be.
Yeah, of course they didn't have the technology to do anything like this back when they first made Spearhead from Space back in 1970.
That's true. GAC wouldn't be invented in a few years yet.
So you're looking at 33 years difference technology-wise, 35.
Right. Speaking of Spearhead, now we might as well address the elephant in the room. There's really only 2 times that anything even remote... Well, okay, if you're going to go... Depending on how far you're going, there are 3 times that something remotely comparable to what this episode was trying to do was attempted by Doctor Who. And that was arguably an Unearthly Child, definitely Spearhead from Space, and arguably the Leisure Hive. The latter of which is obviously the weaker of the 4 here, so we probably are just going to brush that aside, but that was a major change in production and everything else.
Yeah, but it was continuing the story.
But it was not a relaunch as far as the fans were concerned. It was only a relaunch as far as the production was concerned.
Right.
Whereas Spearhead from Space pretty much was, although with nowhere near the gap that Rose had to deal with, and An Unearthly Child was
even there, Spearhead's nowhere near as big of a relaunch as this was.
Right.
I mean, really, the only thing that can compare is the original launch with An Unearthly Child and the '96 movie.
Well, see, here's the thing: An Unearthly Child had a different task as well, because it's launching the show, but its writers don't entirely know what it's going to be. Its fans have no expectations of it, so they can play by ear. Spearhead from Space, they're doing more of what they're doing here, where they're completely changing the show, giving you a new premise, and trying to live up to fan expectations. However, it's only been off air for 9 months at that point.
Yeah,
and they're possibly less.
And they're still kind of continuing a story,
right?
Set up for the last episode.
Yeah. Whereas here they're pretty much trying to do both of those tasks at the same time.
Yeah, I would say that the closest parallel is the '96 movie, actually, because that was supposed to be the setup to capture the fans in order to get a new series. It's just did it a lot more successfully than the '96 movie did.
There's also the fact that this had one extra task the '96 movie didn't, and it absolutely knows it's the first episode of a season, and it has to kick off in some way for that. Granted, that might only just be the last 5 minutes that's actually concerned with it, but I mean, I don't think nearly as much attention would have been paid to Jackie if this was a one-off movie that was not going to have any further returning characters.
You never know.
I don't know.
Because she was kind of vital to her particular bits there were kind of vital to it. I don't think you could cut Jackie from any of the episodes without cutting more of Rose's character.
True.
Yeah. And that's the thing. She pretty much would have been there for no reason other than to characterize Rose, whereas, as we know, have watched the season, she does have a bit more role to play in just causing or at least
other than smacking the doctor once.
But those particular bits are mostly added on in later episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, we leave now. We don't see Jackie again until Aliens of London, World War III.
Right.
And at which point she thinks Rose has been missing for 6 months. And, or was it a year? It was a year.
A year, yeah.
And even then, she's more of an on and off character. I mean, once we leave her in World War III, we don't see her again until
her biggest role then is Journeys or not Parting of the Ways. Or no?
Parting of the Ways. Yeah. But we don't see her. Do we even see? No, we don't even see her in Boomtown, do we?
If we do, it's very briefly.
We do see her briefly in Father's Day, and she has kind of a side role in Father's Day, as she was also playing her younger self.
And it's funny, like I've been listening to this, trying to think of because she, not in every way, but in some small ways, has roles similar to the Brigadier. Not nowhere near at the same level, but in some small ways. And now that you mentioned Father's Day, that part of my brain just started thinking, what if we had a Father's Day type episode with the Brigadier?
Except, we couldn't now, unless we found somebody that looked like a very young Nicholas Courtney.
Right. Well, I mean, it's not that hard to look like if they went to his teenage years. It's not that hard to find a teen version who could possibly be fathomed to grow up into Nicholas Courtney.
Yeah, as long as he can pull the accent and act like
not even that. You have to be very careful because the fact that the Brigadier did not know the Doctor.
That too.
Yeah.
That you'd have to be very careful not to.
But at the same time, by the time he does know the Doctor, he's able to deal with weird shit in a way that most people wouldn't. So there is enough room in the backstory to say, you know, this is why he can handle that without flipping his shit.
Yes, but no, my worry is the fact that, you know, you run into the Brigadier as a kid, you establish the character of the Doctor. It would change how he responded to the Doctor.
No, he would. Yeah, he wouldn't be able to introduce himself. But like, let's say things happened around him, and the Doctor had to.
I don't know. It would be a very hard episode to write, and I wouldn't trust the current staff to do anything like that.
I wouldn't trust the current staff to do it, but first and foremost would be that he can't drop the name The Doctor.
Right.
He would have to go to one of his standbys like John Smith.
Even that is debatable, Matt. Because
he didn't start using it until he was officially a member of.
John Smith would be very interesting because you look at Spearhead from space. He's like, my name is John Smith, and then he just looks at him, and he's like, he knows that's a fake name. He's like, you know what? I'm going to put up with this. So if you could say he actually knew somebody who went by that before, that wouldn't really change that moment at all.
Except for the fact you'd actually think that Brigadier would be looking at him like, holy shit. Oh my, you know, we're putting 2 and 2 together, because the Brigadier's very good at putting 2 and 2 together.
Well, here's also a thing. This is like the third time the Brigadier met the Doctor when he does that for the first time.
I don't think he would have that holy shit reflex. He would just be like, okay.
Okay, this is weird, but I'll go with it.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
Because at that point he's seen enough weird stuff already that he'll just go with it.
Give it a couple of seasons.
I mean, I need to watch his first 2 appearances to be able to say that with complete certainty. But
I thought he didn't use the John Smith name until like the 3rd time.
He doesn't. But we're talking about the character of the Brigadier and the ability to handle shock.
Right.
Yeah,
I know he gets jaded, but I don't think the jaded actually cut in until around the time Joe Grant started.
I don't know. He was pretty jaded already by the beginning of the 3rd Doctor's era.
After dealing with Yetis, Cybermen, and invading plastic, he was kind of jaded.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure an invasion by the Cybermen makes you damn well jaded, Randy. I don't care how you argue it.
Especially if the Daleks by Yetis.
Oh, the Daleks might throw him for a loop, but that would be the rare occasion.
When did he first meet Daleks? Did he meet them in
Day of the Daleks.
He did meet them in Day, okay.
Yeah, he did first meet them. I think it's the only time he met the Daleks, too.
Yeah, he also mentions in Battlefield, it's like, we've got a Teflon-coated bullet. We'll go right through the skin of a Dalek. And Sylvester McCoy hands it up and goes, the non-stick bullet. We even got gold-tip bullets for you-know-what.
God!
What?
Yes!
The perversion of the gold. Let's not even go there.
No, that's actually real. That could actually work against the Cyberman.
Yeah, that could, because
how is a gold-tip Dalek going to clog up their ventilation system?
A gold-tip bullet, Bill, not Dalek, a bullet.
I just said Dalek instead of bullet. God damn it! I realized.
Wow, Bill.
As I finished the sentence, my brain went delete the word Dalek and insert bullet.
If it was a flechette round, it would work.
Okay, that I could see. I'm like, either way, even a gold-tip bullet, I guess, is better than chucking fucking coins at them.
It's better than the golden ticket, man. It's better than the golden ticket.
Because I've got a golden ticket. God, I hate you, Stephen Moffat. I hate you so much. Actually, that one I have to blame Neil Gaiman for. I hate you, Neil Gaiman. I hate you so much.
And the title of this episode goes a long way towards saying what this episode is trying to do, because it is trying to sell us on the Doctor, but no more than an Unearthly Child was trying to sell us on the Doctor. It's more focused on selling us Rose, and to a lesser extent Jackie and Mick. Actually, Jackie, Mickey, and the Doctor probably, like, if you look at them, of the 3, the Doctor probably either has the least amount of screen time or the same as Jackie.
I would say Mickey gets the least.
Mickey
But
definitely
really,
gets about the
Mickey-
least.
Mickey's kind of the
through most of the
Mickey
episode.
got 4 or 5 scenes.
yeah, Mickey's kind of the bitch boy through most of the first season.
Yeah, but I'm
He
like,
is definitely the butt monkey.
he's with her a lot of that episode though. Like I feel like
Not really.
How
major
many speaking lines were actually Mickey?
No, but he's mugging a lot.
He's mugging, but that doesn't mean that he's actually on the screen.
So I'll amend that then. Jackie, Mickey, and the Doctor are probably each, in terms of screen time, equal in the episode. Of those, the Doctor probably has the most lines.
Yeah, the most Mickey establishment I think we get is Boomtown.
Although we do get foreshadowing that he's a bit of a bum for a boyfriend and also easily scared by anything.
Don't read my emails!
Yeah, that.
I'm like, dude.
I'm more thinking cowering at her feet.
Well, as they also mentioned in Father's Day, he would cower at his own shadow, so yeah.
Yeah, and apparently wound up attaching himself to Rose like a baby chick.
By accident, yeah.
But anyway, this is Rose, and yeah, it is about selling Rose. Because if you realize that most of the major things the Doctor did to win, apart from blowing up the building, was all Rose's doing. Well, the bit in the restaurant was kind of the Doctor too, but she was the one that pointed out it was the dish. She was the one that pointed out the manhole cover, and she was the one that saved him from getting captured from the Nest team. So it's basically selling.
And the one who accidentally killed the Nest team.
Yeah, it's not just selling Rose to us, it's also selling Rose to the Doctor.
Yeah.
Establishing that she's worthy to be the companion, which, considering the fact
and
that
she
the
definitely
next
is companion material in this video, in this particular story.
And considering this is kind of a repeating thing in New Who, that the Doctor becomes very picky about his companions. Do we really have in any of the previous companions a real moment where they have to prove themselves worthy of traveling in the TARDIS? Because I know quite a few don't, but I don't.
Joe kind of did. Joe had to kind of prove herself worthy to be the Doctor's assistant.
Yeah, but she was thrust on him and would have been with him even if he never grew to like her.
Eventually he would have basically
until the three Doctors.
Eventually he would have basically gone to the Brigadier and said, "She's not working. She's hindering me. Get rid of her."
But I would also argue that while not exactly upfront trying to prove themselves to the Doctor, a lot of the companions were kind of more or less by accident thrust upon him one way or another, and in the end proved to be useful and stayed on.
Yes.
Usually.
A lot of them were wound up by accident and wound up surviving a trial by fire, essentially.
And that alone kind of makes the Doctor go, you're good. You're good in a tight fix. Come on, you want to come join me?
But I also do think that he has become finicky over the centuries.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't even require that. I mean, that's definitely valid. But at this point, you could even just say, after the Time War, he's not willing to travel with someone he doesn't think will be able to survive what he does.
Then you take a look at David Tennant's 4 seasons and go, yeah. Of that, Martha was the only one that came out okay, and her entire family was scarred from what happened.
Yeah.
And Rose came out okay, just not the way that she...
Trapped in a parallel universe.
Yeah, but it's not like it was a pocket universe. She had the entire world. The only thing she didn't have was the Doctor.
And she ended up with a different duplicate of him anyways.
And then we deal with Donna Noble.
Which depresses everyone who knows anything about Donna Noble.
Donna was another one who definitely had to prove herself. Well, actually,
considering her first appearance...
He originally basically said, "Come with me, I'm lonely." And she was basically like, "Fuck off," and then she changed her mind later, but then she really proved herself.
Yes, she really did. And yeah, we're still depressed on what happened to her. Anyway, but yeah, so it is part of her selling her to the Doctor, selling her to the audience. So yeah, she does come out a bit over the top in this, but unlike a Moffat character, she mellows out again really quickly because in the next episode, it's the doctor that has to save her repeatedly.
Yep.
Although, about her selling herself, I feel like the gymnastics thing could have been foreshadowed a little bit.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been nice to have seen like some trophies or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was like. He could have walked in and be like, "Oh, a trophy." She's like, "Yeah, that's my," or no, a bronze. She mentioned she got the bronze. She'd be like, "Oh, a bronze medal." Oh yeah, I won that for gymnastics. And then maybe Jackie with her whole thing could have been like, "Yeah, I wish she had gotten the silver. That would have had prize money."
Or when Jackie's going on about the job, getting a job, it's like something about you were always good at being a gymnast, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just some little Chekhov's gun that would have that would have been the reveal.
Right.
Yeah.
That would have been nice.
It would have been nice, but it's also at the same time not overly necessary. I would argue too, but it would have been nice.
That would have been a good ad. All in all, the rest of this episode I find to be fairly good. It is cheesy.
Oh, it's by far none cheesy.
Yeah, if it's one thing that Russell T Davies can write, it's camp.
And darn good camp.
Speaking of camp, he definitely throws in a nod to the 60s roots because you can't look at that vial of antiplastic and not think, oh, it's auton repellent.
The only thing it was missing was a label that said what it was on the cover.
Maybe an aerosol can.
And being held by Adam West?
Sometimes you just can't get rid of a bomb.
There's a mental thought breakage for you. Adam West is the doctor.
I can see it.
Of course, me knowing...
It would be complete and total cheese, but I can see it.
Me being an old Family Guy fan, it's just my brain goes to, hey there, would you want some Dr. Penis? Some Dr. Adam West penis?
I always blank on names. Give me just a second.
Bill's blanking on names, and now he needs to look things up, which means we'll have about 3 minutes of quiet.
And now, a moment of quiet for Aaron, who is at home sick right now. I said a moment of quiet, Matt, not a moment of not a moment of bad incidental music.
Oi, that's from the Incredible Hulk. Screw you.
Is that what that was?
Through the internet.
No, I know the song, Matt. I just couldn't tell that was the song you were doing.
Yeah, I couldn't tell that's what you were doing either.
What?
I thought if anything you were maybe like doing Final Fantasy music. I couldn't tell.
Internet, Tully's too off.
I know the song, Matt. I know that song. I know the Lonely Man theme. That was not the Lonely Man theme.
Yes,
okay,
it was.
I'm coming up with two names of actresses that played Catwoman in the Adam West era, and neither one
There's
of them...
three of them that played the Catwoman in the Adam West era.
The third one is probably the one I'm trying to think of, then.
Are you trying to think of Eartha Kitt?
That's the one.
That would have been, I think, the middle one.
Okay. Yeah, her is the companion. There we go.
Eartha Kitt is a companion. They had this really extremely tall gal for the first one, and then I believe she got busy when they were going to be making the Batman movie, and they had to get a replacement for her. And then the second season, they completely replaced both actresses with someone with Eartha Kitt, and she kind of took over from there.
Eartha Kitt was Catwoman in the third season of Batman.
Oh, third season.
Yeah, the first one was Julie Newmar, who played it the first and second seasons.
When did the movie come out then?
I thought the movie was like the finale.
No, it was like in between seasons.
Well, let's see. 66 to 68. 66 films. So yeah, it would have either been between 1 and 2. Yeah, probably would have been between 1 and 2 then.
Yeah, because that's the one that the original Catwoman couldn't make, and that's when they had the first replacement actress.
Which was Lee Merriweather, and she was only in it for the film.
Yep. Anyway, this is totally not Doctor Who now.
Yeah. But no, yeah, there's a little bit of that 60s camp. Thank God not too much, because I can only handle a touch of that.
Yeah. It can't be as strong as it used to be anymore, otherwise you will start losing people pretty quick.
Speaking of camp, what did you think of the hand reversing directions completely independently of the laws of physics? I know I've seen some people harp on this.
Hand what?
Oh,
when,
the plastic hand.
When it goes from choking, when it goes from like attacking Rose to spinning around in midair and attacking the Doctor.
No, you got that backwards.
Direction? Okay.
He was choking the Doctor. Rose make the comment that give a man a plastic hand.
She walks in and thinks he's playing with it, and then it attacks her, which is stupid because it was setting a trap for him. So why the fuck would it attack her unless it knows that she's the star of the show?
Unless it's working on instinct. Remember, it only followed to her because it was sensing him. So it kind of got we don't know which is which. But the whole in midair bit, changing directions, I can deal with that considering it's being essentially psychically controlled. No, my main issue is the design of the hand in general. It's a mannequin hand, it came off a mannequin, yet there are no attachments for the hand to actually attach to a mannequin.
Yeah. I remember that being kind of a head tilter for me too.
Furthermore,
I thought it was all one piece, and then the doctor was able to just pull it off.
He did,
but it needs to be attached somewhere in the first place, Bill.
Well, it was all a solid arm. Like there weren't separate joints. It was just one.
No,
piece.
Otherwise we would have seen broken plastic too. It was smooth.
Yeah, it was a smooth break, and you hear it come off with a sound. I listened.
Yeah.
I kind of put things like that to the fact that the Nestine influence causing the plastic to become living plastic makes it more malleable than regular plastic, and therefore things like that can happen that normally wouldn't be able to happen so smoothly.
But then you would think that someone else would have noticed it.
The fact that it pops.
For example, real garbage cans don't melt and attach to your fingers.
No, that was some of the worst special effects in the entire show.
Yeah.
This is true.
Especially when the color of the person's hand is coming off on the special effect.
I've got to say the burping trash can didn't endear itself to me very much either.
Nope.
No, that was a little bit of Russell T Davies' juvenile humor, which we really saw in Aliens of London, World War III with the farting aliens.
I like Russell much better as a script editor than as an episode writer.
Well, at this point, he was trying to make this a family show, so he was trying to get things in there that appealed to little kids.
Yeah, this
as well as results.
Just like in future episodes, Clive would not have died off screen. You would have watched him stagger back and fall with a shocked look on his face or something.
Yeah, and it took a season before Russell to get that, and the establishment of the Sarah Jane Adventures helped. Yeah. Because then all of his little childish ideas went to the Sarah Jane Adventures. That's where the Sylvine wound up, and they did great on the Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yes, they did.
All of his more adult ideas went to Torchwood.
Yeah.
And that left all of his middle-of-the-road ideas for Doctor Who. And that wound up being a good formula.
Mm-hmm. Especially for Russell.
Because
then he could clear out all the ideas he wanted to one thing or the other.
Middle of the road meaning between two different audiences, not like middle lukewarm ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it meant the fact that the more extreme of his ideas in either directions went to the other shows.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that was a good thing. Because if you look at his later episodes, they don't suck nearly as bad as his contributions to Series 1.
Mm.
And his finale in Series 1 is, by the way, good.
There's also the fact that Series 1, he didn't write it single-handedly. but probably the closest thing that any season has come to being that, especially considering that it was still shaping what the show was at the time.
Yep. Yeah, I did not hate any of his episodes in the upcoming season. To the degree I hated, Aliens in London, World War III.
And yet, despite how bad those episodes are, there are certain things that they did well in them.
Yes,
I would
there
argue.
are. Yeah, there is.
You know
I just
the funny
didn't
thing?
like Slovene.
The more I rewatch this episode, the less I hate Rose in it.
I don't hate Rose in this one at all. I don't hate
first,
Rose in this entire season.
The first time
I don't get annoyed by Rose until she keeps coming back.
The first time I watched this episode, I was like, it's an okay episode, except for that bitch. And then I was like, it's okay, except for her ditching her boyfriend on the ground and running off to travel in time. Whereas rewatching this yesterday, I was just like, all right, he really needs to stand up and stop hugging her feet.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing about Mickey, is he's kind of a gormless idiot in this. He's a worm.
And he will be that until halfway through the second season.
And his reaction to the Doctor is simply, oh my god, he's an alien, oh my god, he's going to probe me, kind of feeling. And it's just like, Jesus. Grow a pair.
Not to mention, he just took a ride in the TARDIS. I think if he really wanted to probe you, you wouldn't have gotten out the door.
Yeah, he freaks out. Mickey is way too much of a spineless waste of space in this one. If I was Rose, I would have done the exact same thing. I would have, of course, I probably wouldn't have gone out with him in the first place.
Right. That's exactly the thing. Like if
I kind of go through this episode wondering, why is she dating him?
Yeah. But I'm like, if you're going to ditch him right after he is kidnapped and almost killed, it's probably not the time to do it.
But at the same time, once in a lifetime chance. Time and space. Whee!
Yeah, it is a good point to note that he mentions, this also travels in time, and that's what pops her over the top.
Right. Which is something that's definitely referenced in Father's Day.
Yep.
And he gets pretty pissed off.
Considering she nearly ends the universe, yeah. No, it's this episode is well written except for a few odd scenes. I wish we could have established a little more on like Clive, but we only had 45 minutes to do it.
And it would have also been nice that even if we did kill him off, that we at least would see more because we were slightly attached to the character.
Clive was pretty much there to say, hey, see your Doctor Who fan to learn why you should love this show, but the era of Doctor Who being written only for fans is over.
Only for classic fans is over.
Actually, his whole thing was basically there to establish this is the Doctor and he's dangerous. When he shows up, shit happens. That was basically Clive's job. He was the exposition.
He leaves a storm in his wake.
Yeah. But still, I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of the exposition character to establish them just a little more before the death, because it would have made the death a little poignant. I would have loved to have seen Clive.
I think it was actually until the third time that I watched this that I actually realized it was him. Otherwise, I was just like, oh, it's a random family and they're being attacked. And here I was like, oh, it's him.
Yeah, it's Clive. And it was just like, no. And the thing is, at the time, the Who is the Doctor website actually existed.
Actually, I'm wondering if it still exists.
Check it out, Matt. You've got the...
Google. Who's it now? What's it called again?
It used to be called Who is the Doctor? .co.uk. But I don't think it exists anymore because that was all done by the Russell T Davies team.
It depends, because sometimes a company will just leave a website up without maintaining it. Like, once it's used to promote something, they won't bother with it. They won't even take the effort to take it down. They'll just leave it there. Like, there are Doctor Who sites that were set up by Random House 5-10 years ago that are still floating around.
No, I think it...
I mean, sorry, I think I said Doctor Who. I meant to say Star Wars if I did.
Yeah, it's still there. It's whoisdoctorwho.co.uk.
Who is Doctor Who.cs.uk?
co.uk. .country.United Kingdom.
I thought it was more like their equivalent of .com.
It is, but it's basically .coms are generally American websites.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you're gonna say .country. I was thinking it was more .commercial.uk.
Oh, that might be too. I don't know.
Let's see, when was this last updated? It doesn't.
It was last updated second series.
Well, I mean, usually they'll have a year at the bottom, but there is nothing.
No, but I can tell because our friend the Doctor is trapped in a picture comes from the episode with the what's her face, the Olympic episode.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of it too. It's not one of the bad episodes. I can't remember the name of it.
But if you go down to the previous issues, you can see some of the have you seen this man?
That's the episode Fear Her.
Yep. But yeah, the previous issues, Index 1 is the kind of the have you seen this man? Contact Clive. Pretty much almost like it is in the website, except it's a different picture. And there's a listing of sightings.
Where is it?
Very left-hand side of the page on the previous issues. Down, you should have like Mars, World Saved, Meltdown, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Very bottom one is Have You Seen This Man?
There we go. Yep, here we are.
And then the sightings are the pictures that were shown in the actual episode.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, though, that this website was being updated on almost a weekly basis during Season 1. And after Clyde's death, the administrator of the website became Mickey.
Although they still have a Contact Clive instead of Contact Mickey.
Mm-hmm. And then later on, it got changed to the, I think for the second series, it got changed to the Defending the Earth because Friends Stick Together logo on the top. And, yeah, actually, by the third issue, it became Contact the Webmaster.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, that was kind of one of the websites that was going on. There was like 2 or 3 of them for the season 2, because I think Deathry Vale School had one as well, and Torchwood had a website too. I remember you could actually log in and use the Buffalo password.
Ah.
Until they changed it later. In a nod to Torchwood changing their... But it was... Yeah, that was the Lifeboat Museum, Deathry Vale. What's that?
Contact us. Jen, Stephen Hudson, Matthew... scrolling down, Miss Smith. Scrolling down. Any other names I can pull out? Oh, there's another one. Sarah Jane Smith has a contact for the website.
Nice. But yeah, this was what they refer to as a viral website that came out just prior to the launch of the first episode. And it, like I said, it continued through season 1 into season 2, and afterwards they just kind of dropped it. Anything else?
Speaking
No,
of
nothing.
I feel like the Photoshop of the JFK picture could have been a little better. Like it
could have been.
Could have been just a little
from
bit.
another picture, and then it was still staring at the camera, which
Yep.
made it seem like the doctor had caused the entire JFK assassination. Which I'm pretty sure was there specifically because of the date and the nods to.
Yeah, it was.
the child.
Yeah, that's what I figure. Is it was there as a nod.
He was there to make sure Lister got the job done this time.
That's kind of what it looks like, the way he's glaring at the camera.
Lister's at you. You better be getting this right this time. Stop screwing with time.
I'm here warning you, Lister. This is not good things. You've looped around 4 times now.
I'm watching you.
Do not make me come to Red Dwarf and kick your ass.
Because I will
There
find
would
you.
have been a crossover that would have been unbelievable.
They could still do it if they really wanted to.
Except for the fact that Doctor Who's BBC and Red Dwarf's now Dave TV.
Dave TV is still technically part of BBC, isn't it?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
It's an independent. BBC sold the rights to Red Dwarf to Dave TV. Or it reverted to Grant Naylor, and Naylor sold it to Dave. Either way.
I think, doesn't Grant... yeah, anyway. Yeah, they probably went back to Grant, and yeah, he's probably producing it because they want something for that channel.
Because the BBC basically said, no, we're kind of done with it.
Until Disney buys the BBC, and who knows.
And then we'll see the Doctor helping the Avengers.
Mm.
That would be the interesting part.
And helping to destroy the new Death Star.
And that means that the Doctor Who comics rights would probably go back to Marvel.
Yeah.
Mm.
But the odds of Disney buying the BBC is like slim to none.
If you've been following the news of entertainment news the past 4 years, I don't know.
Nothing is outside of the reach of the entertainment empire, otherwise known as Disney.
The fact that the BBC is partially a public broadcast, it's, owned by the Crown, essentially.
I'm pretty sure that didn't stop Fox from owning the Republican Party.
They're the Republican Party. They just hoard themselves to Fox.
Because the people that run Fox are stupid enough to take them.
Anyway, we are not a political podcast.
Yeah, I was not intending to get too political with that. I was just
Anybody
saying.
that was offended by Matt's statement can reach Matt by emailing him.
Hey, I'm not saying I'm taking sides either. There's some pretty thick Democrats too.
And if you're offended by Matt's content...
That said, I don't think there are that many people that watch Doctor Who that watch Fox News unironically.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, Rose. What else in this episode?
I don't know. I just suddenly realized I became Al from Home Improvement. I'm a little worried about that.
Are you wearing flannel?
No.
Okay, you're safe, Randy.
That's Bob's job.
Yeah, that is Bob's job.
Well, has Matt caused any explosions on the Twitch?
Not that I'm seeing.
Then we're good. We're not quite at Home Improvement levels.
Yeah, it's still definitely feeding.
Is your computer sparking?
I don't think so, Bill.
Nope. It has lights, but I think those are natural. I believe they're LEDs. So, yeah, we're fine.
Okay, Rose. We'll try this again. Okay, so yeah, the special effects I think were a little below production value for even the first season, but I think
It's
that's
not
because
saying
this was
something
in.
this season.
I think it was because it was in the same filming block as the next episode, End of the World, which needed like all the special effect budget in the world.
Yeah. Because that one was, despite its size and location, was still a pretty heavy effects episode.
It makes me wonder what was in the same filming block as The Long Game. Probably Father's Day.
Probably Father's Day, yeah. Those
Probably,
were
yeah.
close together.
And Dalek.
Oh yeah. Dalek was close to that
those
too.
two, it wasn't getting the budget.
Yep.
Yeah, that would skimp it.
This was an FX heavy season. Come to think about it, that's why there's so many obvious bad ones. That never mind the fact that they had to prove themselves worthy of a budget in the first place. They had so much going on.
But they did. Good
Like,
God.
Is there an episode there? I mean, I don't think there's a single episode that's not ridiculously effects heavy in this season.
Let's see. Well, we've got Rose, End of the World. What's the third episode? Ghosts.
Oh no, it was.
Oh yeah.
The Unquiet Dead.
The Unquiet Dead.
Yeah, Unquiet Dead.
Which was my first episode, by the way.
And then we've got Aliens of London, World War III, Dalek, The Long Game, Father's Day.
Then there's Empty Child, Dr. Dances, I think.
Empty Child, Dr. Dances, Boomtown.
And those two are probably the least special effects in the season.
But they also required the most makeup effects.
The most costuming and makeup.
Empty Child, Dr. Dances, Boomtown, and then Parting of the Ways, and what was the one before it? Bad Wolf, Parting of the Ways.
Bad Wolf and Parting of the Ways, yeah.
I say they're low effects, but when you think about it, all that rain, the dangling from the roof and everything, all of that was special effects, green screen and CGI.
Not to mention morphing people into the gas mask forms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that was also an obvious...
It was obvious, but it wasn't nearly as ugly as some of the other stuff that happened that season.
Oh, yeah. I should have more gone with saying what I was about going to say first, and that was that it was one scene that took a few seconds and was their equivalent of that one werewolf transformation.
Yeah, but I'm thinking it adds up because there's also all the Captain Jack scenes with the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
There is...
from Doctor Who Confidential, when they showed that actual scene with Rose hanging in midair, and how it was pretty much an all special effects scene, even though it's something that, yes, if everyone was insane, they could have dangled Rose in the rain and done that. They did not opt to risk Billy Piper's life.
Yeah.
Also, all the extra effects with the Doctor's make everyone live speech.
Yep, and the
just this once
being able to use the sonic screwdriver to fuse metal back together.
By the way, I'm not.
And use the sonic gun to make a hole in the wall.
I'm just saying, yeah.
There's still but what we're saying is, you add it all together. There was a fair amount of special effects in those episodes.
Yeah.
It's just a lot more subtle than most of the other episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And, Unquiet Dead is also one of those that had subtle effects, other than, of course, the Gelf themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
The Gelf were pretty easy to pull off. Wouldn't take too much other than filters and a little bit
most of the rest was makeup effect with a little bit of special effects lighting.
Mm-hmm.
So that one wasn't that bad. And that one is the one that was in the same filming block with this one and End of the World. So of those three, you can tell which one all the special effects money went to. This was also, I think, their first time trying out some of these special effects. I mean, if you take a look at how good they got at special effects by season 2, that freaking werewolf.
Yeah. Still the best werewolf I have seen in any visual format in the last 10 to 15 years.
Yes. It's funny because that episode came out about the same time as the third Harry Potter movie.
And those werewolves sucked.
Yeah, and remember watching that werewolf transformation and going, wow, the one in Doctor Who was so much cooler.
Tooth and Claw did have a transformation?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, he transformed and then he literally ripped the cage apart, transforming.
I was actually just watching Buffy last night, and I was watching what I thought was, well, Oz's first transformation. I'm like, ah, damn, they did half of it behind the couch. That's not fair.
It's because Buffy was 10 years prior to Doctor Who and had a budget to match. It's on par with, like, season 3 or 4 of Star Trek, and I think it didn't have as much money as Star Trek. Next generation Star Trek, not original series.
Yeah.
God help.
Okay. I was
just gonna say.
I'm just like, I'm not sure what your benchmark is there, but
No, I was talking time-wise.
Okay. Yeah,
it was around season 3 or 4 of Next Generation that they were doing those.
And it was trying to keep up and did so for the most part.
I think it was later than that, because Next Gen started in the late 80s. This Buffy started in 97, didn't it?
And I thought it started in 90. It might have been 97, so therefore it was closer to DS9.
Yeah.
Or.
I'm sorry. I keep asking these questions or making these statements that cause us to go off on completely unrelated
tangent.
Well, no, this is a good thing to know because this is talking about special effects of the era. I know when Doctor Who was on, the Star Trek show that was on at the same time was Enterprise.
I'm trying to figure out.
Not for much longer.
I'm trying to figure out what would be the first, effects light episode of New Who. I'm not sure if School Reunion counts. I don't think Idiot's Lantern counts without makeup. I don't know if Love and Monsters counts because there's just pretty much no. Well, there's at least a few big ones.
There's a few big special effects shots during that, yeah.
Which brings us on to Lazarus.
To be honest, for effects,
well, but that's a long.
No, there's a lot of special effects in the Lazarus. Yeah.
Yeah. Human Nature, Family of Blood, then is probably the least effects-heavy episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all they have to do is the watch.
Oh, and then Blink follows it, so Blink pretty much.
Well, and Blink as well, yeah. Blink. And those couple right there must have been the least effects-heavy ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So remember what I said about Enterprise being the contemporary? When did Doctor Who first air? March 2005.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Enterprise's finale was May 13th, 2005. They had almost 2 months where they were
getting the Human Nature manuscript. What? They're humans in a school in a town with no lasers.
All we have to worry about is sets and makeup? Thank God!
Family of Blood starts to bring in the effects, but Human Nature pretty much doesn't. Except for
the only effects I can really think of in that entire thing is the effects that you get when the watch is open.
But Family of Blood also has the entire the new alien spaceship set, and it has the Fury of a Time Lord sequence.
True, the Fury of the Time Lord sequence probably had more needed special effects, but the ship itself didn't need that much of an effect, did it?
Well, other than building a new set, no.
Yeah, the sets are already kind of there, and it was also a very small set, to be honest.
I feel like an alien spaceship set still probably costs more to build than, say, a schoolhouse set.
Not really.
I was just about to say, not really. You haven't seen some of the 80s movies we have, Bill.
And even there, I mean, basically...
these are a bit more realistic than most 80s movies.
Only thing you're paying for is the plastic over the foam that they're basically making most of the set pieces out of. And it was really only one room, which, helped things.
Yeah, that's true,
yeah.
too.
As compared to a normal set, which, in and of itself, normally they build them up like a normal house to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Because it needs to be able to take people moving around and loud stuff, and even occasionally small explosions.
It really depends, because they might have just gone, "Hey, that's a building that's not being used for the summer. Can we borrow it for a week or something?"
Or that's true too. They could, if they're shooting a lot on location and they can actually find a place that they can rent a room in that's gonna be big enough for a set piece that they need, then they probably would do that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know what they did with human nature.
But for the most part, that's a pretty light episode, all considering.
Yeah, and I know the fact that in Rose, a lot of the sets were pre-existing. Like, it was actually a department store they were in that was substituting for another department store.
Yeah, a lot of Rose was on site stuff for the most part.
They were allowed to shoot during the daytime. They didn't have to cover up the windows and pretend it wasn't night.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and to the crickets chirping in the background, yes, that was a Clerks reference.
Sorry, I was actually, most of the episode of Human Nature was filmed at St. Fagan's Natural History Museum.
Haha.
Or National History Museum, I should say. In Cardiff, so it wasn't even a long trip for them. They just probably
They just went across town.
Probably filmed after hours or something.
Yeah, especially since a lot of it was nighttime.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm trying to remember what was it that filled in for Hendrick's store in Rose, because I know it was another store. Some of the interior scenes were shot on set, but
like the downstairs basement, I'm sure was on set.
Yeah, because they needed to. They needed some of the particular effect shots with the autons.
I'm curious. I'm curious with the autons what the ratio of puppets to actors to CGI is.
I don't think there's much CGI in this one, at least not yet. Other than the main consciousness was CGI. I think.
Yeah, Mickey was.
The main consciousness was CGI. The trash bin was CGI. Some of the scenes with Robo Mickey, as I think of him, was CGI.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he pops off the head and the head turns and talks to him, that was done by CGI a little bit.
And then there was also the headless body smashing things.
Rory made a much better looking Auton than Mickey.
Yes. Yeah, that was completely... you could tell he was fake. I mean, you watch this episode and you're wondering how Rose didn't pick it up.
Right.
Or
Rose seemed not only visually awkward about him, but
either that or maybe that's why she was with him. She just didn't pay that much attention to him.
Pizza. Pizza.
Yeah, but I've known guys that would be like that once you mention pizza.
I used to be one of those guys, actually.
Okay.
Yes, but did you have rubber hair while doing that?
What's that? No, I did not have rubber hair while doing that.
Exactly.
Mine stemmed from growing up watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
But it was when Mickey all of a sudden became obsessed with the Doctor that Rose should have started to be like, hey, you don't look like Mickey.
Mind you, at least there they changed the makeup slightly, so he was at least his proper skin color. The one that was in the car looked about 3 shades too light.
It looked like a cheap plastic knockoff.
Do you guys remember, I think it was Duracell commercials way back around, I think, the mid-90s? With the deliberately plasticky family?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember those.
You know what Mickey Auton reminds me of? You know how, like, they'll sell a real action figure and you go to, like, a flea market looking for that action figure and you come across those knockoffs from Beijing or Hong Kong or whatever? This was that version of Mickey.
Mm-hmm. But no, the reason I brought up the Duracell family was that he reminded me of those commercials. The first time I saw him. I'm trying to remember... I
think those were like mid-90s, weren't they? I remember I was fairly young at the time.
The Puttermans, that was the name of the family. And just so Bill can be appropriately creeped out.
A link.
Yeah. There you go, Bill. The Auton family of the future.
Anything else we should mention?
Let's see. Special effects. Acting. How did people act? Eccleston was... For his first time out, Eccleston did a wonderful job.
Mm-hmm. Just the whole catching himself in the mirror bit, bringing it back to that.
Billie Piper was okay.
Yeah, we still needed to warm up to her a little bit. We were kind of head tilting at first with her.
I think if she sold that gymnastics line a little better, we might not have been as worried about the lack of foreshadowing. But that's really the only thing that I could really point at as saying that could have been acted differently.
Maybe. Yeah. I think Noel Clark was a little over the top in his Mickey portrayal in this one.
But that's what we kind of needed.
He does settle down a bit in later episodes.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but I don't know if that's the acting or the directing.
That could have been the directing because they did mellow out halfway through the season.
I think it was also mostly that nobody was really familiar with the role and knew where it was going at that point either.
Yeah, that's true too.
And then of course Jackie was Jackie.
Yeah, Jackie was no different than she would be in every other appearance. She pretty much
be that
in that regard.
Be that as benefit or pain, that was pretty much. And really, those are your only real characters.
This does give us our first classic Jackie moment of trying to seduce the doctor.
Yes. I remember watching
anything
that
could
for the
happen.
First time going, this will not end well.
Anything could happen. Blinks.
No.
Nope. Walks out.
And she's so pissed when that happens.
Like, there's a strange man in my bedroom. Yes, there is. Anything could happen. No, it couldn't.
Nope. And just walks out.
Yeah, he's just like, no. Nope, 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 nope.
Nope, not going there. Not going
whereas his 2 incarnations down the line, he might have played around with that.
And adjusted his bow tie.
Then again, this is the same incarnation that cursed his previous incarnation for possibly making out with a Zygon.
Yeah. You
to be
kissed
fair,
Zygon.
every incarnation of the Doctor hates what their previous incarnation did. Even if they do it themselves.
Oh yeah, I'm so full of myself, and I'm wearing sand shoes.
And you, why are you always forgetting everything? Are you some sort of babbling child?
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting to see what Capaldi thinks of his predecessors.
Yeah, and you know there's going to be some sort of crossover with him.
There needs to be some sort of crossover with him.
Hmm.
And if they are going the way I think they are, he'll be the another version of the third Doctor.
Actually, wait a sec. Because none of the Doctors pre-Time of the Doctor can know Capaldi is even going to exist.
Remember, though, whenever they meet, there's a time differential. They immediately forget.
Yeah,
For
but
the most part, yeah.
They usually remember certain things, like they remember it after the fact. I remember this happening. So they should be like, wait a second. 13.
Except for the fact that they'll remember that they were there with someone. Because that little piece of information is vital, they'll forget it.
You don't, or I guess they could possibly do the "Who are you? I'm a friend" type of deal.
Even there, it's like I said, the time differential will make them forget the details.
Except for the important stuff they really need to remember. Although, from what we understood, the 5th Doctor had pretty good memory of his visit with the 10th.
Because he had to.
Mostly because he had to, so he could remember to hit all that stuff as the 10th, yes.
Wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
It also wasn't a big time shift for the or
He
time changer for the
he had to
Fifth
save the
Doctor
TARDIS
either.
by its own bootstraps.
Did we just lose Bill again?
He might have
No,
turned
I
his mic
muted
off.
Mike for a second.
Oh, okay.
Is there that much background noise that just
Yes.
like
Yes.
the whole thing off?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
That's how much your fan makes, yeah.
Anyway, are we up to the point that we need to have final thoughts here?
I think we
yeah,
might
if we aren't already, we should be very soon. So I guess I have to start off final thoughts as usual.
Why don't you go ahead since you just volunteered? I was going to have Bill do it, but you volunteered.
Why you always pick on? Yeah. So solid acting for all the main characters. A few touch and go effects, but other ones still worked out pretty well. I don't think there was a single character that actually showed up that wasn't useful for something. If not, at least explain something. They also had something else happen to them later on, or help develop something in the other characters. Shot on location for the most part, so other than I think the apartment might have been a set because they keep reusing that.
Mind you, the Autons layer was also currently in an unused paper mill. So that was a redressed set.
So it was essentially a set redressing, but it was still technically almost on site. But yeah, so it was a redressed room. Again, I think the only regular sets that they had built that they would also continue to be reusing are the apartment sets and the TARDIS set.
One thing we didn't mention, this might be the first time that you see the inside of the TARDIS from the outside with the door open.
Yes, we've seen the opposite, but this is the first time they've done it the other way around.
Yeah. Again,
and they really stopped showing the outside from the inside, like after I think the first season of Doctor Who.
No, they did a few times during the Third Doctor too.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Yeah. I remember one of the Sarah Jane episodes during the Third Doctor that you could actually see outside, and the sand actually came in from outside.
Cool.
As I recall. But it's really good sets, pretty decent acting, and when they were really hit with the effects, they were really freaking hit. But when they were also missed, they were really freaking miss. But to be honest, 2.5 out of 3. So. I guess that's we're not giving numbers yet, but yeah, a pretty solid episode as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, Bill?
Rose is an episode that really is... There's not much it can be judged against. I mean, its ultimate measure of whether it was a good episode or not is whether or not Doctor Who's still on the air, which it is.
In fact, it got renewed for a second season, I think, like the day after this aired.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are definitely things that we can criticize and look at that could be done differently, but ultimately, it was a successful relaunch of the series, and that's more than most episodes of the show can say.
All right. A lot of people complain about Russell T Davies' writing, myself included. But for this particular episode, I believe he did very well. There are a few things he could elaborate on, but again, you know, you are trying to cram this down into a 45 or 42-minute time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And that means a lot of stuff that you might want to elaborate on has to be cut. The acting is very good. The only real drawback that is in this episode is the special effects, which I think at the time, since they have not been doing sci-fi for a while, it took them a while to get the hang of it.
Again.
Mm-hmm. So all in all, I'd say above average. Not great, but good.
Mm-hmm. So, numbers?
So, yeah, let's go to numbers.
Like you said, definitely above average, so I would staple this about a 4, being very nice to it, about a 4. Cricket's true.
Okay.
Ultimately, as looking at some of the things, such as some of the things we've mentioned, it's easy to veer closer toward a 3 with this. But considering all the hurdles it went through and the fact that it really cannot be judged against anything else, it's successful enough that I would go for a 4.
Okay. Well, for me, I'm looking at it this way. The writing's about a 4, the acting is a 5, and the special effects are about a 3. You blend those together and you get a 4.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So, yeah, 4s all around. Average of the episode, a 4. No math needed.
This is a very clearly above average episode. There are a few things that might make you tilt your head and go, what the hell were they thinking? But there's also just as many really good things going on.
Now, I would like to do one more thing before we leave. This was a unique thing in that a series had to relaunch and reestablish itself, albeit with new actors. Something along the same lines happened in 1986 called Star Trek The Next Generation. Which is pretty much the same thing. You had to reestablish the Star Trek universe, and you had to reestablish, all the rules about it with new actors playing, new roles essentially in there.
And their first... The risk of pissing off Kirk fans was just as great as the risk of pissing off Tom Baker fans.
Yeah.
But what I was going to do is I was going to compare this against Star Trek The Next Generation's first episode, Encounter at Farpoint. And in my opinion...
That was a two-parter, wasn't it?
It was originally a double-length episode.
Okay.
It became a two-parter in repeats.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Even those I just refer to as a two-parter when speaking about it after the fact anyway.
Yeah, but when it aired in one chunk. Is what I was saying. Now, compared the two of them, I would actually say that Rose probably came out better than Encounter at Farpoint.
I think Rose sells more of the characters a lot better. I think that Encounter at Farpoint pretty much sells you Picard and gives you little bits of the other characters, whereas this, it doesn't sell you Mickey in a positive way, but it tells you what it wants you to about Mickey, as well as Jackie, and then of course Rose and the Doctor are really sold.
Yeah, and in Star Trek's defense, Star Trek had a lot more characters to deal with, because really in this one all you had was the Doctor, Rose, Mickey, and Jackie.
Yeah, whereas Star Trek had like almost 10 characters.
Q.
Yeah. And even then, Q's different by his second appearance than he is in this one.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, that's true as well.
Or as he is in Farpoint. But yeah, but what I'm saying is, again, the same things that were happening there is that it took them about 3/4 of a season to start getting the special effects to an acceptable levels in that. I remember looking at that first episode, Encounter at Farpoint, and going, what the hell is this? This isn't Star Trek.
The first season of Star Trek had a character that was more annoying than Mickey.
Who's that? Because if you're going to say Wesley, he didn't get annoying until about season 2 or 3.
Have I watched that? I didn't realize I'd watched that much Next Generation. Let me see what Netflix says.
Because that was about the point where the Wesley saves the day formula started to kick in.
Actually, the most recent what season was the episode with Data's brother?
Which one?
His first appearance.
I think that was the end of season 1.
Then I've watched season 1.
Mm.
And Wesley is already annoying me.
Okay.
Then you're very easily annoyed then, apparently.
Yeah, because he falls into a formula for later seasons.
And that's why they also get rid of him with a Doctor Who-esque character later.
But anyway, no, my point was that the first episode, Encounter at Farpoint, is seen as a relatively weak episode in Star Trek The Next Generation. Its special effects were a little slipshod, other than stuff relating to the Enterprise itself, which they seem to have established relatively well. A lot of the actors were very uncomfortable in their roles yet, and it showed.
Oh, actually, you know
some
who
of them
else
are probably
it sells?
uncomfortable in their outfits.
It does sell Tasha Yar at the very least as a character that merits more learning about.
Yeah, she comes through with that okay,
which is a good thing for a pilot.
But I mean, Brent Spiner obviously hadn't figured out Data yet. Jonathan Frakes hadn't really fully gotten the idea of who Riker is yet,
Right.
although he was fairly close. And, there was a few other characters that just weren't, Geordi didn't actually hit his stride until about season 2. And Worf didn't really hit his stride until later on either. So, a lot of the acting comes out as middle of the road, and the script is not the best either. So I would say Encounter at Farpoint would rate a 3 on a scale of 1 to 5, whereas this comes out of 4. So I think Doctor Who managed to do it shorter and do it better.
Although it did also have the example of Encounter at Farpoint to learn from.
True.
Yes, they technically did.
I don't know if I'd even say technically, because I can guarantee you that Russell watched Next Generation. He's the kind of person who absolutely would have.
We're geeks. We tend to watch all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Once in a while.
I watched most of Battlestar Galactica.
If you're going to tell me that Russell never watched an episode of Next Generation, I might have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you.
Yes, but did he watch the first episode is the question.
He might have skipped. You never know.
It might have been a while before the BBC picked it up in there, because that aired prior to the ability to acquire stuff from across the pond relatively
Does
quickly.
Russell T Davies sound like a fan that can abide by skipping an episode?
But then again, he might have been busy watching Doctor Who at the time.
True, but also I would argue, Randy, that even though it may have taken a while to get overseas, I'm pretty sure that they would have been getting it by the 90s, since it started in like the
pretty sure it was
early,
on DVD,
the mid to late 80s.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it was available by 2003.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain it was available by 2003, but I bet it started airing around 88, 89.
Which would have been perfect.
Given the NTSC PAL version.
If it started airing in 89, actually, let me see. If it started airing in... It would have been absolutely best if it started airing in December of 89. Because then Russell would have had nothing to watch on TV.
I don't know if we could actually find out when it first aired in the UK.
Depends on if Wikipedia or IMDb has release dates for it. But this is going largely off topic.
Yeah, we will
cease this debate, and we will see you next week when we're going to do the Christmas Invasion. With David Tennant's first appearance, other than the 5 seconds at the end of Parting of the Ways.
Yep.
His first full episode as the Doctor. And that will be the conclusion, I believe.
You just say the 5 minutes of the Parting of the Ways, and then the Children in Need special, and then the Christmas Invasion.
Yeah, I'd actually like to talk about that, too. If we
if we could, yes. I believe I have the DVD, so I should be able to do it.
Until next time.
See you all later.
Stay fantastic.